Well, that's tough to follow. Good afternoon. I'm Janice Rogers. I've been involved with CFW almost forever. But today I have the honor and privilege of introducing someone to the stage whom many of you know very well, as she's been a stalwart at CFW for nearly 2 decades. First, I want to congratulate Linda Wagner on her retirement, hard to believe, after 17 years of service to CFW. Currently, because she's not done yet, as Chief Operating Officer. I will share with her the advice that I was given on my retirement, which was to be selective and take your time before you committing to anything, as your plate will fill up far more quickly than you realize. I think it was Sonny Fisher who gave me that advice. And many of you know very well how well she followed it herself. I hope Linda does a better job. I worked with Linda first on the CFW Finance Committee, and as she reminded me earlier today, the Investment Committee, and later joined the Audit Committee, serving there for several years. Audit committees are not known for being the fun place to be, but Linda made sure that this one was, as much as it could be. Working on the Audit Committee entails reviewing many pages of numbers and footnotes, and Linda always took the work very seriously. And she cared that all the details were right. She also laughed and joked along the way, though, and kept everyone engaged in the process. When I finally left the committee after a number of years, she even wrote a very clever limerick about me, which I will not repeat, but mostly about how picky I had been through all the process. But years later, I still count her as a good friend, and I wish her all the best in her very well-deserved retirement. And now I welcome the incomparable Linda Wagner to the stage.
Wow. Thank you, Janice. Now there's a supporter extraordinaire, like so many of you here with us today. Wow, 17 years. Before applying for the job here, I had never heard of Chicago Foundation for Women. My, how times have changed. After being in the job for about a month, Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans. Many people who lost their home, lost everything, were being relocated to other parts of the country, including this area. We kept getting calls from donors asking how they could help. In no time, CFW, in collaboration with our African American Leadership Council and the Sista Fund Giving Circle, organized a clothing and personal hygiene product drive and established the Katrina Relief Fund to distribute nearly $100,000 to grantee organizations who would be welcoming the evacuees. I saw firsthand how women working together can get anything done, and I felt like I was home. This organization responds to the needs of the communities we serve. Similarly, when COVID-19 hit, CFW again responded to the needs of the communities most adversely affected and established a response, recovery, and resilience fund to address the immediate impact of the pandemic. Later, we launched She-Covery, an initiative outlining our efforts to ensure an equitable recovery. We did that. In the aftermath of the 2016 presidential election, I and so many other women were pissed. A group began organizing for a women's march here in Chicago and reached out to CFW for help. We jumped in, as is our history, and were able to provide the last piece of documentation necessary to obtain a permit. We had no idea that the biggest issue with the Park District was the potential damage to the grass. During the planning, organizers estimated the crowd to hit maybe 50,000. The actual number was 5 times that. It brought tears to my eyes to seeing the size of the crowd and a sea of pink hats. Never had there been such a march for women's rights here in Chicago. When we come together as one, we are unstoppable. Recently, we took on a fiscal sponsorship with the Holistic Birth Collective, whose mission is to promote access to midwife-led care models among unjustly served communities and raise awareness about obstetric racism. We were glad to support that work, which has the potential to dramatically improve infant and maternal mortality rates in African American communities. The two women who formed the collective worked for a year without any pay because they believed in the need for such change. We believed in them too. I'm extremely proud of how CFW helps small organizations that are just getting started. Over the last 17 years, I have seen us grow from a small $2.5 million budget organization operating primarily as a grant maker to a nationally recognized leader on gender and racial equity with innovative programming and a grant award portfolio of nearly $3.5 million a year. I've seen it. We have come a long way, and we would not be where we are today without all of you. But we need your help now more than ever. I know you're thinking, they say this every year. Hey, it's bad out there. We're in the midst of a war on women, on immigrants, on people of color, on queers, on the disabled, the disenfranchised. And then the anvil drops on our head as the Supreme Court, weighted down by appointees of the regime of hate, overturns Roe. J.B. Pritzker was reelected last week, but Illinois is one governor away from losing reproductive freedoms along with many other rights. Yes, we need your help now more than ever. And I ask you to make another donation here today. I know you're thinking, but I bought a ticket, paid for a sponsorship, made a donation. But we needed your added support to continue our work we are really good at. Be a vital part of a movement seeking equality and justice for all. Be bold, be courageous, and be generous. At your tables, you will find a teal-colored envelope inside our donation cards and envelopes that we ask that you use to submit your donation. There's also pens on the table for your convenience. For those of you out in video land, a link to our donation page will be dropped in the chat. And for those of you that are more tech savvy, in other words, you know how to use a cell phone, you can also text CFW to 243-725 to make your gift. At this time, I want to acknowledge that an anonymous donor has committed to matching dollar for dollar up to $100,000 all of the money donations that we receive today. So your donation is double. And as you make your way through the donation forms available, let me share a Nigerian proverb. It is the heart that gives. The fingers just let it go. So let your fingers do the talking for your heart. We need you together, undivided, now more than ever. Thank you. And I thank you for your continued support. And now I invite Felicia Davis Blakely back to the stage. Thank you.